wine glass hit the floor with a sharp crack and shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. Gasps echoed across the restaurant, but no one moved. Forks frozen midair. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. You could hear a pin drop in that luxurious room filled with white linen tablecloths and polished silverware. All eyes locked on one table near the center of the room. A tall black man in his 30s stood beside his chair. Calm on the outside, but anyone paying attention could feel the tension rolling off him like a rising storm. His jaw was clenched. His eyes, sharp and unreadable, stared straight ahead. Across from him stood a blonde waitress, face flushed with anger, one arm pointed toward the door. "I said," her voice trembled with rage, "this place is for real Americans. Go back to Africa." Someone gasped aloud. An older couple at the next table looked horrified. A teenager pulled out her phone under the table, already recording. But the man didn't move, didn't shout, didn't flinch. He just looked at her. And in that moment, the silence screamed louder than any voice ever could. The sun hung low over the town of Ashridge, its warm golden light washing over brick buildings and cobblestone streets like honey poured over old memories. It was the kind of town you might drive through on your way somewhere else. Quiet, clean, traditional, and to some, exclusive. The town's pride sat right at the heart of Main Street. The Gold Elm, a fine dining restaurant with crystal chandeliers, a grand piano near the bar, and staff trained to serve you with a smile, so long as you looked like you belonged. That evening, as the dinner crowd began to file in, a man walked through its polished glass doors. His name was Lucas Johnson. Lucas wasn't flashy. He wore a clean navy button-down shirt tucked into tailored black slacks. No jewelry. No brand-name flex. Just simple confidence. The kind that didn't ask for permission to exist. But the moment he walked in, the shift was subtle and unmistakable. A pause in conversation. A flicker of narrowed eyes. A hostess hesitating ever so slightly before greeting him. "Table for one?" she asked, a smile trying too hard. "Yes, thank you," Lucas replied calmly. "Window seat, if that's all right." He was shown to a cozy table near the center of the room, a perfect view of the entire dining floor. A strange choice, perhaps, but Lucas wasn't here to hide. He sat down, placed his phone face down on the white tablecloth, and exhaled slowly. It had been a long road. Just 2 months earlier, he had buried the last of his family. His daughter, only 9, taken too soon by cancer. And before that, his wife, killed in a police stop gone wrong. They had called it a mistake, a misunderstanding. They said she had reached for her purse too fast. Lucas never got an apology, only silence. So he left the city behind. No agenda, no schedule, just a rented car, a notebook, and a need to breathe again. And now, here he was, in a town that didn't know him, a place where he hoped he could sit for one meal without being reminded of the skin he wore. From behind the server station, a waitress emerged. Jenna, mid to late 20s, sharp cheekbones, blonde hair in a bun too tight for comfort. She moved like someone who had something to prove, and someone to blame. Her eyes landed on Lucas. She stopped, just for a second, then plastered on a smile and approached his table. "Good evening," she said, setting down a menu a little too firmly. "Your server tonight is out sick, so I'll be helping you. Let me know if you're ready." Her tone was polite, but not kind. Lucas looked up. Their eyes met. Hers darted away. "Thanks," he replied gently, I'll start with the steak au poivre and a glass of red, if you don't mind. She nodded, scribbled it down quickly without eye contact, and turned to leave. Lucas watched her go, a slow frown creeping onto his face. He didn't need anyone to say it out loud. He'd lived this moment 1,000 times. It always started like this. Quiet. Not with slurs, not with screams, but with what wasn't said, what wasn't offered, what was denied behind practiced smiles. As the restaurant filled with laughter and clinking glasses, Lucas leaned back in his chair, letting the hum of distant conversation wash over him. But inside, something twisted quietly in his chest. And he didn't yet know that before the night was over, that quiet would turn into a storm. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The tables around Lucas were being served. Steaming dishes, smiling servers, wine being poured like the evening had no edges. But his table, still empty, his glass untouched, his order nowhere in sight. Jenna had walked past him at least 4 times. Each time, eyes forward, not a glance. Like he didn't exist. Like he wasn't there. Lucas checked his watch. Another server, a young brunette, placed salads at a nearby table. She caught his eye for half a second. The look she gave him was apologetic. She knew. Lucas cleared his throat quietly, then raised a hand. Jenna, wiping her hands near the bar, looked over. He motioned politely. She hesitated, then walked over. Her steps clipped, like her patience had already worn thin. "Yes?" she asked, voice flat. Lucas kept his tone even, polite. "Hi, I just wanted to check in. It's been almost 20 minutes, and I haven't received my drink or appetizer, just making sure my order went through." A pause. Jenna stared at him for a beat too long, then leaned in slightly, her voice low enough not to be heard by other tables, but sharp enough to cut. "We've had a delay. Kitchen's backed up." She didn't blink. Lucas blinked once, slowly. "I see," he said. "Thank you for letting me know." She turned without another word and walked off. Another 10 minutes. Still no food. Still no drink. Lucas watched as a table that had arrived long after him, a white couple dressed in country club chic, were laughing with Jenna as she poured them wine. His stomach tightened. He wasn't angry, not yet. But he knew this dance, and he was tired of dancing. He stood up and walked to the front counter. "Excuse me," he said calmly. "I'd like to speak to the manager, please." Jenna's head snapped up. The hostess at the front desk looked startled, unsure. Then Jenna stepped in fast, her voice laced with ice. "Sir, there's no need for that. You're making a scene." Lucas raised an eyebrow. His voice remained even. "I haven't raised my voice. I'm asking for a conversation. That's not making a scene." A few heads turned now, patrons beginning to pick up on the tension. Jenna's nostrils flared. "And then," she snapped, the moment everything cracked open. "You people always want something to complain about," she said, her voice louder now. Silence began to ripple. "This restaurant is for refined guests, people who belong here." Lucas tilted his head slightly. "And what exactly do you mean by people who belong here?" he asked softly. "You know exactly what I mean," Jenna hissed. "People like you should go back to where you came from." A pause. Then she said it, the words that would freeze the blood in every person watching. "Go back to Africa." The room shattered into silence. Not a fork moved. Not a breath drawn. Someone's phone clattered to the ground. An elderly man near the bar leaned back in his chair, stunned. The teenager from earlier had her phone up again, now recording everything. Jenna stood stiff, chest rising and falling. Lucas didn't speak, not right away. He simply looked at her, not with rage, not with shock, but with a kind of hollow sadness, as if he had seen this scene before, too many times to count, as if her words didn't surprise him. But still, they hurt. And in that moment, a storm began to gather, not loud, not violent, but slow, steady, unstoppable. And what Lucas would say next would shake every soul in that restaurant to their core. For a long, breathless moment, Lucas said nothing. The air in the restaurant felt thick, unmoving, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Jenna's words still hung there, poisonous and permanent. Go back to Africa. Some diners were frozen, eyes wide in disbelief. Others stared into their plates, pretending not to have heard. And some, a few, looked quietly, ashamed. Lucas stood tall, his hands calmly resting on the back of his chair. His voice, when it came, was low, controlled, but every syllable was razor sharp. You think you can speak to me like that? He began, his eyes fixed on Jenna, because of the color of my skin, because I'm sitting alone, because I'm not from here. His voice wasn't angry. It was steady, heavy, the kind of voice that didn't need to rise to be heard. You look at me and decide I don't belong, but you don't know me. You don't know where I came from, what I've seen, what I've lost. He paused, and this time he looked around the room. One by one, he made eye contact with the other diners. And the rest of you, he said, louder now, but never shouting, you watched it happen. You heard her, and you said nothing. No one moved. Even the waitstaff had stopped. The piano player by the bar had his hands frozen mid-note. Do you know what silence does? Lucas continued. It doesn't just protect people like her. It teaches people like me that we're not welcome here, that our pain is entertainment. That dignity is optional if your skin is the wrong shade. He turned back to Jenna. You think I haven't heard this before? I buried my wife 2 years ago because a cop thought she moved too fast at a traffic stop. My daughter died 3 months ago. Cancer. She was 9. His voice cracked slightly, then steadied. I came here because I needed to breathe again. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, a town like this had space for peace, for healing. But instead, I got you. The room was silent. Many now had tears in their eyes. Even Jenna's defiant posture had begun to crack. Her arms crossed tightly, shoulders trembling. Lucas looked at her one last time. You said I should go back to Africa, but maybe you should go back to your humanity. A soft, audible gasp from the corner. A fork dropped somewhere behind him. Someone, no one knows who, whispered, "Damn." Lucas stepped back from the table. I won't raise my voice. I won't demand justice, because I've learned real change doesn't start when someone's punished. He looked to the teenager with the phone, still recording. It starts when people stop being afraid to see. And with that, Lucas turned and walked out the front door. Not a single soul in that restaurant moved. Not until the door closed behind him with a soft click, like the final note of a song no one realized had been playing all along. Jenna didn't sleep that night. Not a single second. She sat alone on her couch, phone buzzing nonstop beside her. Screen lighting up with texts, missed calls, notifications. She didn't dare open them. Her hands trembled as she clutched her knees to her chest, curled up in a sweatshirt that now felt like armor. Too hot, too heavy, but somehow not enough to protect her. The video, the one the girl had filmed, it was everywhere now. By midnight, It had over 500,000 views. By morning, it was on national blogs. By lunchtime, it was on cable news. Waitress tells black tourists to go back to Africa. Man's powerful response to racism stuns restaurant. Ashridge waitress exposed in viral meltdown. Her name, her face, all over the internet. Over and over, the moment replayed. Her words, spit out with venom, now echoing on a loop through phones and TVs across the country. This place is for real Americans. Go back to Africa. And then, Lucas's voice. You should go back to your humanity. It haunted her. She hadn't even looked him in the eye when he said it. Too busy clinging to her pride like it was a shield. Too blind to see how small she had looked in that moment. Her phone vibrated again. She glanced down. Twitter. Dude, justice for Lucas was trending. She opened the app. Regret was a fist in her gut. Thousands of comments, some filled with rage. Fire her, ban her, cancel her. Racists like this don't deserve to serve fries, let alone steaks. How many times has she done this when there wasn't a camera? Others were worse, not angry, just disappointed. She doesn't even realize how dangerous her words are. This is why we're tired, why we protest. He didn't even yell. And still, she made him feel less. And then, she saw one comment, just one, that pierced deeper than the rest. It was from a user with no profile picture, no followers. I've worked with Jenna. I used to be her friend. She's not just ignorant. She chooses to stay that way. Jenna's breath caught. She dropped the phone. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like a warning siren trapped inside her chest. She ran to the sink, splashed cold water on her face, gripping the porcelain like it could stop her from falling apart. They don't know me, she whispered to herself. They don't know what I've been through. But even as the words left her lips, she didn't believe them. Not anymore. Because the truth was, she had known. She had felt the shift in energy when she saw Lucas walk in. She had made the choice to avoid his table. She had decided he didn't belong, not because of his clothes, not his behavior, but because of his skin. And then, she had chosen to humiliate him. She collapsed onto her couch, not crying, just hollow. Her hands covered her face as she whispered, almost inaudibly, "What have I done?" Later that afternoon, she walked into work. The restaurant was silent. Co-workers avoided her eyes. Regulars, who once joked with her, now stared coldly. Steve, the cook, who had always slipped her extra breadsticks, just shook his head when she walked past the kitchen. She felt every stare like glass against her skin. She was exposed, not just on the internet, in her own life. That night, she opened her phone again. Her hand hovered over the message button. Lucas's name had been tagged in hundreds of posts. It wasn't hard to find him. She didn't know if he'd read it. She didn't know if he'd care, but she had to say something. She typed, "You don't know me, but I was the one who served you, or refused to. What I said to you was inexcusable. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. But I need you to know, I'm trying. I want to understand. I want to change. I'm sorry." She stared at the screen, then hit send. And for the first time in days, she exhaled. The next morning, Jenna woke up to a knock at her door. She hadn't ordered anything. No one came by unannounced. Cautiously, she opened it. Nothing but a plain, white envelope sitting at her doorstep. Her name, scribbled in capital letters, Jenna. No return address, no logo, no stamp, just her name. She picked it up slowly, hands trembling. Back inside, she opened it. Inside was a folded sheet of paper. No greeting, no signature. Just 7 words written in blocky, aggressive handwriting. Stop, or you'll regret changing sides. Jenna froze. The words seemed to pulse on the page. Threatening. Personal. She read it again. And again. It felt too familiar. Like the kind of language she had once heard growing up. In that moment, memories came flooding back. Back when she was 12, sitting at her father's dinner table, hearing words like, "People like that ruin America. They don't belong in our neighborhoods. If we don't push back, they'll take everything." She remembered nodding, because that's what you did when you were a child. You absorbed hate like it was tradition. Jenna sank into her chair, still clutching the note. Her chest felt tight, her head dizzy. Is this who I am? Is this what I was raised to be? Is this what I passed on? Later that day, while at work, she sat in the break room, staring at the wall. That's when she got a text from a number she hadn't seen in a while. Mandy, her childhood best friend. A friend who had once defended her when she was bullied for being too poor at school. A friend who had introduced her to her first job. A friend who had stood by her after the video went viral. Or so Jenna thought. The text read, "You embarrassed us. You embarrassed everything your dad stood for. Don't go crying to strangers like you're the victim. Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget who still has your back." Jenna's hands went cold. She connected the dots, the tone, the handwriting, the threat. It was Mandy. The betrayal hit harder than the hate online, because this wasn't from strangers. This wasn't from trolls. This was from someone she once loved like family. Someone who would rather see her stuck in ignorance than stand beside her as she tried to grow. That night, Jenna didn't cry. She sat at her kitchen table with a stack of books she had borrowed from the library. Titles like, "So You Want to Talk About Race?" "White Fragility." Stamped, "Racism, Anti-Racism, and You." She opened one, then another, took notes, paused every now and then just to breathe. It wasn't for anyone else. Not the internet. Not Lucas. Not even for her job. It was for her. For the version of herself she wanted to become. Even if it meant burning bridges with people she once thought were unshakable. A week later, she stood in front of her phone. She opened the video app, took a deep breath, then hit record. Her voice was steady, but her eyes gave her away. There was fear in them, but also something else. Conviction. "My name is Jenna," she said, "and I'm the waitress in that video. I've spent every day since then trying to understand what I did and what it meant. I know now. It wasn't just about one comment. It was about years of silence, years of not questioning the things I was taught, years of letting hate pass as opinion. I hurt someone who came into this restaurant looking for peace, and I gave him pain instead. No video will fix that. No apology will erase it. But I'm not here for forgiveness. I'm here because I need to say it. To myself, to anyone listening. I was wrong." She paused, a deep breath. Then softly, "But I'm not going back. Not to silence, not to ignorance, not to comfort at the expense of truth. And if that means losing people I once called friends, then so be it." She ended the video, posted it, turned off her phone, and for the first time in weeks, she slept. It was Thursday night. The restaurant buzzed with its usual soft music, clinking glasses, and murmurs of expensive conversations. Jenna stood by the server station, organizing orders, sleeves rolled up, eyes focused. She had kept her head down for weeks. Worked twice as hard? spoke less, listened more, and slowly, the stares softened. A few co-workers started greeting her again. Steve, the cook, even cracked a joke yesterday. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a beginning. That night, a new hire was shadowing Jenna. His name was Malik, just 19. Black, quiet, smart. He had just moved to Ashridge from Atlanta to help his mother with medical bills. This was his first job in a real restaurant. Jenna had taken him under her wing. She saw something in him, something that reminded her of Lucas, the quiet dignity, the weight in the eyes. At table 3 sat Mr. Rollins, one of the restaurant's longtime VIPs. Late 50s, white, sharp suit, old money. He was a major investor in the Gold Elm, the kind of man whose complaints could cost people their jobs, and Jenna knew it. Malik approached his table nervously with a tray. "Good evening, sir. I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you with—" Mr. Rollins didn't let him finish. He stared Malik down, then leaned back in his chair, scoffing audibly. "Where's Jenna?" Malik hesitated. "She's training me, sir. I'll be assisting you tonight." Mr. Rollins raised a hand like he was swatting a fly. "I didn't ask for an assistant. I asked for a server who knows what she's doing." He looked Malik up and down. "You people come in here, think you can learn service in a week. No manners, no refinement." The words cut through the dining room. A few heads turned. Whispers. Malik froze. His knuckles whitened on the tray. Jenna, standing just a few feet away, heard everything. Her heart pounded. Her stomach turned. She looked at Malik. Eyes down, face flushing red, frozen in humiliation. She looked at Mr. Rollins, calm, smug, confident no one would dare check him. And then she stepped forward. "Mr. Rollins," she said evenly, voice clear and firm. "Malik is new, but he's qualified, and he deserves your respect." He turned to her, annoyed. "Excuse me?" "You're excused," Jenna said, louder now, "because this table will no longer be served tonight." Gasps around them. Mr. Rollins narrowed his eyes. "Is that so? Do you know who I am?" "Yes, sir," Jenna replied. "I also know what we stand for, and racism isn't on the menu." Silence. Absolute silence. Even the piano player stopped mid-song. Mr. Rollins slowly stood. "You'll regret this." Jenna held his gaze. "No," she said softly. "I already regretted staying silent once. I won't do it again." He left. Not a word. Not a tip. But as he walked out, a slow clap began. Then another and another. Soon the entire room erupted in applause. Not for drama, not for entertainment, but for courage. Malik looked at her, stunned. "You didn't have to do that." Jenna smiled gently. "Yes, I did." That night, Jenna stayed back after her shift, helping Malik clean up. Steve passed by, tossed her an extra dessert from the kitchen. "You did good, kid," he muttered. She went home, opened her phone. Another message from Lucas had come through. Short, simple, powerful. "You didn't just talk. You stood up. That's how change begins." Jenna stared at the screen, tears welling in her eyes. She had lost customers, maybe even put her job at risk. But in that moment, she didn't feel weak. She didn't feel ashamed. She felt free. It was a calm Tuesday afternoon. The restaurant was half full. The air outside had that crisp bite of early fall, and golden leaves danced lazily across the sidewalks. Inside, Jenna was reviewing new staff schedules behind the counter. Her posture relaxed, focused. She'd come a long way. She didn't need validation anymore. She was no longer the girl hiding behind fake smiles and inherited hate. She was rebuilding, one action at a time. Then the door opened. A gust of wind swept in, and with it, him. Lucas, dressed in a charcoal gray coat, dark jeans, and a calm expression that still carried the quiet weight of someone who had seen too much and survived it all. Their eyes met. Time paused. For a moment, the restaurant blurred away, and all Jenna could hear was the rush of blood in her ears. She stepped forward. "Lucas," she breathed. He gave her a small nod, then a warm, restrained smile. "Table for one," he said gently. Jenna nodded, trying not to fumble the menus. Her hands shook, but not from fear this time. "I'll take care of you myself," she said. "I know," he replied. She seated him near the same spot where it had all happened. Full circle. She poured his water. He sipped it slowly, watching her the way a teacher might watch a student present their final project. After a few quiet moments, the door opened again. 3 men in suits walked in. Sharp, purposeful, and clearly not locals. They scanned the room quickly. The tallest of them smiled when he saw Lucas. "There you are," the man said. "You're not easy to track down these days." Jenna blinked. Lucas gave a tired smile. "Didn't know I needed to be found." The man walked up and handed over a card, sleek, embossed with a luxury finance firm logo. "Our company's been trying to schedule a meeting for weeks. Your name's on every short list from Wall Street to Silicon Valley." Jenna's hand froze on her notepad. "Wait, what?" the man continued. "This place didn't seem like your usual haunt, but we heard you'd been spotted in town. Good thing we checked." Jenna stared. Lucas looked amused. She turned to him, stunned. "You're—" He looked up at her, eyes twinkling with something between kindness and mischief. "Investor, venture builder. Let's just say, I help people bet on things that matter." She swallowed hard. "You could have ruined me that night," she whispered. Lucas leaned forward. "I could have," he said, "but punishment isn't always the lesson. Sometimes growth is louder." The suited man tapped his watch impatiently. "Mr. Johnson, we can discuss terms if you're ready." Lucas raised a hand. "You can wait. I'm finishing my lunch." The man blinked, nodded, sat at the bar, flanked by his assistants. Jenna looked down. "I don't know what to say." Lucas looked her in the eye. "You don't have to say anything. You already did, the night you stood up." Jenna's throat tightened. She wanted to cry, to smile, to laugh at the absurdity of it all. But all she could do was whisper, "Thank you." Lucas shook his head. "Don't thank me. Just keep going." He finished his lunch in silence. Before leaving, he placed a business card on the counter. "If you ever need help expanding this place, call me." And then he was gone. She picked up the card, looked at the name embossed in gold. Lucas Johnson, founder, Horizon Impact Fund. Investing in who you choose to be. Jenna clutched the card to her chest. The world outside continued as usual. But inside her, everything had changed. Again, a few weeks later, the golden light of autumn filtered through the tall windows of the gold elm, casting long, soft shadows across the polished floors. Business was booming. New faces, new energy, a different vibe, more diverse, more alive. People came not just for the food anymore, but because the story had become legend. The restaurant where truth was served alongside steak and wine. Jenna stood in the back office, wiping her hands on her apron when the manager walked in, holding a sealed envelope. "For you," he said with a small smile. "Corporate sent it down." She raised an eyebrow, cautiously took the envelope, opened it. Inside was a letter. Promotion notice. She blinked. You're officially being offered the role of front-of-house supervisor, the manager said. Effective immediately. She looked up. Why me? He shrugged. Because we need people who know how to see, how to lead, and how to learn. That night, after her shift, Jenna sat outside on the curb, the cool air kissing her cheeks. She took out her phone and opened the camera. She wasn't posting this for views. She was doing it for someone like her, someone watching, ashamed of who they've been, but still holding on to the hope they can become someone better. She hit record. Hey, she said, voice quiet but steady. I'm not proud of who I was, but I'm proud of the choice I made not to stay that way. If you're someone who said something you regret, if you've been silent when you should have spoken up, I'm telling you now, it's not too late. Change doesn't come when you're forgiven. It comes when you decide you're no longer okay with being the person you used to be. Someone once told me. She looked down at a small card in her lap, the one with Lucas Johnson embossed in gold. Growth is louder than punishment. She looked back at the camera, eyes clear. So grow, loudly, bravely, even if it costs you. Because the version of you waiting on the other side is someone worth fighting for. She hit stop, saved the video, didn't post it. Not yet. She just held it for herself and for whoever needed it next. Soft piano music plays. As she walked back inside, Malik gave her a fist bump. Steve nodded from the kitchen. The hostess smiled. The world hadn't changed overnight, but she had. And sometimes, that's where it starts. If stories like this remind you of who you want to be, stay with us. Subscribe, share, because the next chapter might be yours.